Welcome to Wicklow County Matters. I'm Paul Shoiga, standing in for Emily, who's having a well-deserved break. I'm here in the Avoca Gallery, and I'll be talking to Rod Coyne about art classes, his gallery, and the 1916 exhibition. Rod, it's an absolute pleasure to be here in the Avoca Painting School and Gallery. Tell us how you started.
Well, probably the end of a long journey. I went to college in Cork, lived there for 3 years, and then I spent 10 years living and working in Dusseldorf in Germany. I was painting Irish landscapes there, so it was clearly time to come home and work in the Irish landscape. Lived in Dalkey for 3 years, looking for a place to put down roots. And we found this place, which was the Avoca Gift Centre, and the building had loads of different carnations, but there was always incarnations over the years, but there was always this public space as part of it. So that's perfect. We could have a place to live, and we could have a studio and a gallery all in one.
How did your time in Germany help mould you as an artist?
It was probably a very important time because I moved to Germany within weeks of finishing college. I'd studied in Cork, and I was lucky to hook up with some people who were just starting an artist co-op. So I actually got a studio within the first year of being there, a really nice studio in the post-industrial landscape right on the River Rhine. And I spent a whole lot of time there going from being an art student to actually becoming an artist. And it probably took the full 10 years. And I went through various phases of painting different subject matter. Firstly, the stuff that they wouldn't even let me do when I was in college. I had to exercise all those ghosts and get it done. And then other things caught my interest. But bit by bit, what was in the backdrop of all of these paintings was the Irish landscape. And that moved further and forward until it actually took over the painting altogether. And I got to a point where I was painting Irish landscapes from sketches and from memory in a Dusseldorf studio. So that was clearly the sign that it was time to come home.
Rod, you set up the gallery in 2003, and then you set up the school in 2009, which were very tough times in Ireland. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, as far as painting is concerned, and the painting school in particular, it's very different than what the rest of the work around the gallery which is creating my own work and getting it out there so people can see it and looking to sell it and get it on people's walls. That's how I survive. But the painting school put me in a different category. It meant people who wouldn't otherwise cross the thresholds, they were coming into the gallery then to be part of that. And people who were here, it was more than just a luxury item, as in a painting on a wall, because they were learning a new skill. And much more than learning how to paint, there's a group dynamic of working with people in the class.
Rod, in 2016, you mentioned that we all as kids splash around in canvas and we're loving drawing, but there's many devices around nowadays that take away from that. So how would you encourage children to get back to the natural ways?
That's interesting. An interesting question, because I have young kids myself, and they love drawing and painting, but they do all the other sort of arts and crafts stuff, and they do collage and glitter glue and lollipop sticks and making stuff and creating stuff the whole time. There was a period there before they had to go to school that they would do a couple of pictures before breakfast. I mean, I couldn't even keep up with them, the speed they were painting at. And now they have their iPads and their phones and their tablets and everything else. So I wonder if maybe the actual hands-on applying paint to a surface, if that's kind of in their mind the virtual thing. It's like the virtual of what they do on their iPad, because they can draw on that, or they do take photos and they can manipulate them. It'll always be crucial. I don't think it matters how much new technology comes into it. You'll never get beyond sort of that physical feel, the satisfaction of that physical feel of mixing something up and applying it somewhere.
So since Rod's school opened in 2009, do you think more local people might have taken an interest in art?
I think so. I think he's been quite high profile with his work, I think both locally but also nationally. I'd have sort of followed his work quite a bit. My sister is an art teacher, so I always had an inclination and an interest, so I was attracted to it.
Join us again in part 2, where we find out more about Rod Coyne's upcoming 1916 exhibition.